Okay, everyone. Hi, thank you for joining us for this H-2A visa webinar, where we'll be discussing the process, employer requirements, and compliance in 2025. Today, we'll be going through a map. That map will consist of an overview, the process, requirements, and compliance, common challenges, and why you may want to hire H-2A workers, as well as a Q&A session. And leading us through this is me, Annalee Patel, an associate attorney here at Farmer Law. So to begin, a bit of an overview of the H-2A program consists of kind of a multitude of facets. A lot of you are existing clients who've already experienced the program. Some of you may be new clients wondering if this is the right program for you. So the best way to know that is understanding what the purpose of the program is, which is when a U.S. temporary agricultural work visa to a legally hired foreign worker allows them to be hired for a seasonal or a temporary agricultural job when domestic labor is unavailable. And this is designed to help you meet seasonal worker shortages while maintaining compliance with U.S. labor laws. In fact, according to recent data from the U.S. Department of Labor and the USCIS, about 66,000 H-2A visas were issued during the 2024 fiscal year. Unlike the H-2B program, the H-2A program doesn't have a fixed annual cap, and it adjusts based on the agricultural needs as well as legislative needs. Pivoting onto the process of the H-2A visa. So step one, we typically get an employer certification as well as confirming, which allows us to confirm labor needs. We then file a USCIS petition. So once the DOL certification is approved and provided to us, an employer can file a Form I-129 with the US. And then there's worker recruitment and visa issuance, pivoting to worker arrival and employment. And then during that employment is just ensuring program compliance as well as compliance of departure. Employer and job seeker requirements and compliance. For businesses that hire H-2A workers, to prove a shortage of domestic and agricultural workers is essentially key, as well as avoiding displacing U.S. workers and proving the job is temporary or seasonal in nature. The offered wage should meet or exceed the adverse effect wage rate, which typically changes annually, and it varies depending on what time of the year. So sometimes it can be an abrupt change, so you may receive an email from our team or the Department of Labor saying that there's been a modification for some states, and we kind of have to pivot more impromptu for that. Additionally, we have to provide housing and transportation and guarantee that at least 75% of weekly hours were offered. And lastly is complying with all federal and state employment laws. The solutions we tend to provide in our kind of control of your H-2A process is streamlining the applications and ensuring that there's compliance measures every step of the way, starting with the Department of Labor certification process, ending with going through until workers leave the US at the end of their employment term. Sorry, went back a step. Moving forward, for workers, they can be approved for an approved country under the H-2A program. Recently, under the H-2A modernization law, which was effective January 17th, 2025, the eligible country list has been removed. So essentially, employers can source workers from any country across the world, but we do tend to have countries that we tend to bring in more workers from, and that information will be provided in a later slide. But for now, a worker must be approved from an approved country, must obtain a valid job offer from a certified H-2A employer, demonstrate relevant work skills based on the job type, meet the required health and safety standards, and work under the terms and conditions outlined in the contract. Typically, we call the contract a job order internally, and if you ask us questions about worker compliance, we may refer to the contract as a job order contract as well. That's typically shown in the ETA 790A, and that is what outlines everything from job duties to wage to hours worked to termination language even. So we have a lot of language that we bake into our filing process, which helps ensure that you remain compliant as well as protected as an employer. Additional solutions we provide is kind of taking the hassle out of hiring with our comprehensive international reaching recruitment service, AW Labor. And now pivoting onto common challenges under the H-2A program. Employers face a lot of regulatory compliance matters. Employers can and must navigate a lot of complex labor laws within the US and maintain strict adherence to program requirements under the Department of Labor regulations. On top of that, we have processing times for the visas as well as certifications to monitor, both of which require monitoring of the Department of Labor and USCIS, and that requires a lot of advanced planning. So typically, recently, we've been seeing some delays from the Department of Labor in processing or heavily scrutinized petitions from the USCIS. All of those factors culminate to a longer processing time, and it can stall the progress of a certification. It can stall the certification to the point where you may receive workers after your certification date. And that's all factors outside of your control, but things we monitor on a day-to-day basis to make sure that when we do file your application, we have the best chance of success in making sure your start date is in fact your start date. On top of that, there's a retention and turnover challenge employers face, essentially meaning that managing seasonal workers efficiently to maximize productivity is a balance the employer has to weigh with all the agricultural needs, factors such as economic and local weather changes, things that you won't necessarily expect maybe going into a certification process, but things that naturally can occur and are typically understood in the H-2A program. Solutions that we can provide is just expert guidance to meet these deadlines with confidentiality, as well as understanding holistically that there's a lot of factors that go into your application process, that go into your temporary need, as well as the amount of workers you need. So we want you to be able to get what you want and also within the time frame you want it. So we have a strong team that can help adjust the timeline for you and adjust your needs should any new changes arise year after year. And why hire H-2A workers? Your workforce can be leveled up with the benefits like reliable and motivated labor force. Like I mentioned before, a lot of our top countries of origin for our H-2A workers consist of workers from Mexico, South Africa, Guatemala, and Honduras. H-2A workers tend to boost productivity during peak seasons, allowing you to meet your agricultural needs, while also ensuring long-term cost savings with reduced turnover. Because these workers tend to be self-motivated to have employment and also tend to enjoy their employment and employment relationships with their employers long-term, they want to keep returning and they want to keep facilitating that relationship with you. So that long-term relationship ends up becoming a cost savings measure as well. Additionally, workers matched to your unique business needs is a big asset. Top industries, including crop production, livestock, nurseries, and fruit harvesting, are sectors where workers are pulled for and tend to enjoy the most benefits when they have the H-2A program. Additionally, there's legal protection, which helps employers avoid penalties associated with unauthorized employment. And there's an overall positive economic impact, which helps support the agricultural industry and ensures food security. The states with the highest H-2A use is Florida, California, North Carolina, Georgia, and Washington. But to be honest, we have several clients from an array of states. So it's a program with a lot of employers at use within the United States. And that concludes our very brief H-2A program session today. I'm happy to turn this over to a Q&A so I can answer some questions. I know a lot of you have an existing relationship with our firm, so you've likely been working with our paralegals or legal assistants. And so I'm happy to kind of answer more of the strategy or more procedural questions, I guess, at this point. But I am also the individual that they end up having someone review all your information for. So If you have any questions, now is the time. Okay? Doesn't seem like there's any questions. You're always welcome to reach out to our firm as well as our team if you have any questions about any changes the program may be facing with the new administration. The answer is there are no anticipated changes to the program under the current administration. We don't anticipate any robust changes made to the H-2A program, especially because there's such a vital labor and economic need for it. So on top of that, as well as any other nuanced questions you might have, please feel free to reach out to your paralegal who can also loop me in. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.